Hello, my name is Nancy Young, and welcome to another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, a program highlighting the positive voices within our local communities and how they're impacting and uplifting our world one person at a time. Now, before we get started, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. Today, we'll be highlighting your voice through that of homeschooling your children. My guest today is from Tracy, California. Her name is Yolanda Magana. She is the coordinator of the Tracy Area Homeschooling Academy. At this time, help me welcome Miss Yolanda. So, welcome to the show, Yolanda.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. So, today we're talking about a topic of homeschooling, which is a huge topic right now, especially with the extension of COVID, stay at home orders. And now that things are coming out day by day, that's making it look like the kids will not be able to go back to school in person, at least for this first semester, which I know is stressful for a lot of students, but as well as parents, because
Yes.
they are at a loss. I was recently talking to some students, high school students, and parents, and the parents were actually of younger kids, and they're just really stressed that what is going to happen for the future because they've been already on edge trying to make things work leading up to the summer and with their jobs, and how can they do this with kids and multiple children makes it challenging. So
Yes.
now you are the coordinator of the Tracy Area Homeschool Academy. So how long
Correct.
has this been in existence?
I think it's going on 5 years now, and we're just getting bigger and better. And every year we try to make things more helpful for parents, and we get more resources. But this last couple months, we've grown by 100 families. And counting. Every day, there's still people requesting to join. So I'm trying to set it up in our Facebook page in a way where it's more self-explanatory, with a lot of like recorded Zoom meetings and helpful tips of the day and things like that for parents, just because I'm usually able to give about an hour one-on-one consultation with parents, but just because the plethora of people joining, there's no way I could do that. So we're just trying to get better at helping parents and families on this homeschooling journey.
Okay, so today is the Tracy Area Homeschool Academy. What do you do? What do you offer?
So we are just a group of homeschool moms and dads that have gotten together, and we get together for classes. It's a co-op, and a co-op is a weekly, I guess basically homeschool school where families get together and the kids can do some classes with their peers. The classes are led by moms and dads, as well as vendors that we hired to come do the classes. And we get to have lunch together. And basically, it's an actual school day. We have everything. We have spirit days and things like a normal public school would have. And then we do things throughout the day. Throughout the week, we have park play dates. We have a lot of field trips. So this quarantine has really done us in just as much as a public school has. And we do workshops and parent conferences. We do dances and holiday get-togethers. Our kids partake in the DARE program, just like public school kids do. So we try to bring everything that public school has, so kids don't feel left out. We have yearbooks. We have spirit T-shirts and things. And it's kind of our homeschool community, I like to call it. It takes a village to raise a child. And so we all get together and try to bring resources for our kids to expose them to different learning opportunities that might not be offered in public school. And so we basically are in this journey together. So we're not, we're not isolated. We're not at home all the time. We get to build those friendships and, both for our children and for us adults.
Tracy Area Homeschool Academy, a local homeschool group of over 330 families. So is that now over 400?
No, so I included, so we were about 230 right before this pandemic started, and it's now at 330.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you come together in a collaborative effort to teach our children, coordinate field trips, hold special events, and so much more, because it takes a village to raise a child. And our diverse community does an outstanding job of that. So how did you get involved in homeschooling?
It was kind of not necessarily planned. I was working full time in law enforcement, and I had my third child. I knew I kind of wanted to homeschool eventually, but I was not prepared for it. When my daughter was in fourth grade, the Common Core kind of was giving her a lot of anxiety, and so that kind of pushed us into it a little more. And so I kind of just created a Facebook group page, and it's by people searching. It kind of grew overnight, and we started putting together classes and play dates and field trips. And so now we call it Tracy Area Homeschool Academy, because it's much more than just a group. So I thought academy was a little bit more appropriate, because our long-term goal is to have a homeschool center for children to go every day if they want to interact with their peers and learn with each other. But then also we've got members about a 40-minute radius. So we have members from Livermore, Brentwood, Modesto, Manteca, Lathrop, Stockton, and we all get together and do this homeschooling journey together.
It can be overwhelming when, people take on that task of homeschooling, because they can see that socialization could get kind of eliminated in that. And it's very hard and difficult, especially if students don't have siblings or someone else nearby to be able to create that. So like you said, you want to be able to have that center where people can come together. Because a number of years ago, I homeschooled my oldest son. He's almost 28 now, but I homeschooled him when he was in middle school, and we lived in Fremont, and there was a COYO program. So we did the main work at home, but then they offered a few classes on site so that he could at least go like for his math class. Even though I was good at math, I wanted to give him that opportunity to, be with some other students to do that. And then when they offered a class for writing, and so even though I'm a writer myself, it's so far different teaching someone else how to write. So I was happy for that class to send him there for them to help him.
Exactly. And that's what co-op really offers is, maybe a mom is just really not into art, and they can send them to co-op, and another mom, could teach about with art. And it also gives, like you said, the child a chance to learn from someone other than their parent. And it just kind of takes that pressure off that parent too on certain subjects that maybe they don't feel confident in, or it's just not their cup of tea.
Yeah. So also your program, it includes parents, so that maybe if parents have questions, and maybe, can get guidance or tips from others to help, how to better, present something so that their student can understand it.
Absolutely. So even though I've been doing it, for 5 years, there's moms in the group who have been doing it for like 10 or 20 years. And so everyone comes with their own experience and expertise and knowledge. And so when someone, can post on the page, just a simple question, and other moms, I would think I know the answer to it, and I answer it my way, but then 5 other moms answer it, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't think about that, and so even though we've been doing it longer than, say, someone just starting, we still learn from each other, different perspectives. And, there's always different seasons of life. And so, maybe when I started homeschooling, I didn't, have a baby yet. And now I'm having a baby. And so now I'm like, okay, how do I function now with an infant with homeschooling? So it's nice to get that feedback and advice from other moms.
Okay. While people may be forced more so into this homeschooling situation, outside of that, there are different reasons why people choose to do that, because obviously you and many of the people involved already now started way before that. It was something that was, more forced. So can you talk about some of the reasons why people choose to homeschool?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton. So first, total disclaimer, homeschooling is not distant learning or pandemic or crisis schooling. It is completely different. Long time ago, you have this, I guess, misconception now that it's for religious reasons. That was one of the main reasons long time ago. It's totally grown from that. A lot of people, like I mentioned before, Common Core just didn't work for our family. And so some people pull their children and choose to homeschool because of the type of curriculum or how it's being taught. Some children, actually, a lot of our athletes, Olympic, athletes, professional athletes, and, actors and actresses, celebrities have been homeschooled because they want to work on their craft. And so a lot of people who are heavy into sports, they will homeschool so they have more time for their children to travel and do sports. Gosh, there's some people have travel. Their family, either if it's military or your job just takes you traveling a lot, they want to be able to have their children go with them. And so that it's very flexible for that. Those I would say those are probably the more common reasons that I've heard of, is just they're unhappy in the public school system. Maybe it's, there's too many kids in the class and their children have special needs. This is a really big one. And so they need more of that one-on-one. And so they see their children flourish in homeschooling because they have that one-on-one. Even if you were to have 10 kids, you're still having the 10-to-1 versus the 30-to-1, and you as the parent know your child most, and you want the best for them above anyone else. So of course it would be safer. That's another one. When a while ago when we had a lot of the school shootings, a lot of people didn't feel safe. And so that was another reason a lot of people started homeschooling. Vaccines are another one. When the SB 276 came into effect, a lot of people pulled their children for that. So, and now obviously with, COVID, it can be both sides of the spectrum. It can be some parents don't feel comfortable with having the child to go back so soon, and others, don't want them wearing the masks. And so, you have both sides, and I can see both reasons. So there's a lot, overall, I think it has to just boil down to safety, working one-on-one with your child, and getting them, where they need to be. Even if school isn't challenging enough, homeschool, you can challenge them more. You can step up a grade or two. And maybe your child is, behind, quote unquote. This homeschooling offers that stability and ability to kind of catch up. It's a very personalized learning experience. The children really get to they're more engaged in their education. They take control and ownership of it. And you start to see the, maybe reluctant learner start to understand their passion and their likes. And they really start to flourish because you can personalize and customize the curriculum to your child's ability, and to their interests.
Absolutely. For me, when I decided to homeschool my oldest of four, it was because he was diagnosed with ADHD, and it wasn't like a myth; it was real. and and it was difficult for him when he went from elementary school from one teacher to middle school, junior high school, as it was in Fremont, and because he had 6 classes. And by the time he gets settled into the first class, then the bell rings and then he moves on. And it's very hard to just plug in that focus. And so it was frustrating for me. I tried to work all through the whole school systems, but it just wasn't adequate for what he needed. So I did that for 2 years, and then we moved to Tracy as he was at the end of that, and he was able to start high school here. And then he went on to college and everything on his own. But those 2 years helped him to really gather his focus. And so it was a sacrifice. It was definitely a sacrifice for me and my family to have to take off work for a couple of years to really focus on that. But I knew it was needful for him. And I think, some people just feel helpless and don't think that there are really other options but the one school, public school
Absolutely.
choice. But
And
there are some other options in California. So can you talk about that?
yes. And even within homeschooling, you have a variety of opportunities. California is great for homeschooling freedom right now. And I say right now because legislation is always in the works to try to kind of put a monkey wrench in that. But as of right now, California is awesome to homeschool in. And I love that you brought up your son's kind of learning style too. Some kids need to focus more. Some kids don't do well behind a book or a computer all day long. So being hands-on, and again, this is kind of goes back to the personalization of curriculum, is there's 7 different learning styles. And so with homeschooling, you can really tailor how you teach and how the child learns to fit them best. And then also with the sacrifice, it is, a lot of people say, gosh, I'm a single mom, I work full time, I can't homeschool, but you can. So it's mainly obviously financially, you have to have, someone kind of, watch your child all day or put them in different types of classes that are available to homeschoolers, or, do an online type program or a hybrid program where you do some homeschooling during the day, during the week, but then a couple days out of the week you can go on campus and have class with the kids. So there's I always try to encourage people, just because you think, well, I can't afford homeschooling, you can homeschool for very low cost to free. You just have to kind of know what's out there and be creative. And you can, if you work full time, any type of family dynamic, homeschooling is doable. But it is a sacrifice, like you said. But that's why the Tracy Area Homeschooling Academy Facebook group page is so helpful, because it really gives parents the tools they need to succeed and have their children succeed in any, wherever you are in life right now. Homeschooling, I think, is a very viable option. In California, there is charters, obviously, that will give you funding, and that you use that funding for classes and curriculum. There's also free online programs that you can do, as well as paid programs. There's things called, you might hear the acronym PSP, which is Private School Program or Satellite Program. And that's where you pay a small yearly fee. They kind of deal with all the transcripts and paperwork. But then you're able to teach how you want, what curriculum. And then you have a PSA, which is a private school affidavit, and that's done online. And so basically you are telling the state that you are a private school and you're a private homeschooling. And then you have the ability to kind of pick and choose whatever curriculum or classes you want. But with the last 2, you don't get any of the funding like a homeschool charter might. And not to confuse homeschool charter with actual charter schools. Some of the actual charter schools that are public charter schools that you go to every day, like a public school, they have a second charter school that just deals with homeschooling. And so those may or may not have funding attached to it. So again, there's a variety of different options for parents out there.
Okay, what about the person who says, well, I don't have a teaching credential. How am I supposed to do this?
You are their mother. You are their first teacher. You are so capable of teaching them. And what better person than the person who has that invested interest in wanting their child to succeed? We have these great teacher assistants called Siri and Google and Alexa. And so really what it is, what's that?
I said Siri and Google are doctors too. It's like doctors. Go ahead.
So what your job as a teacher, a homeschool teacher, is really getting your child used to finding the tools that they need to find the information. So when we don't know an answer, we look it up. We go to the library, we read books, we look it up online. So you're kind of their guide. Once you get into homeschooling, you quickly see that children want to learn. They're sponges and they want all this information. They're naturally curious. So teaching, really, they end up doing themselves. You're kind of just there as a guide. You might say, this month we're going to learn about, ocean because it's like going to be Shark Week. And so you might provide the information and show them how to get the information, but they end up doing all the learning themselves. And so that's what's kind of fun is watching it. And as a mother who doesn't have a teaching credential, I have early childhood background, but I'm not credentialed as a public school teacher or anything. It is amazing to do school with my children because you're learning again, and you're learning a different way that you did in public school. And just to see those lights go off on your kids, and go, I get it. Oh my gosh, it's the best feeling.
Yes, I remember the field trips that I had to make up to bring things to life for my son when I was doing it, and going to those museums, tech museums, things that sadly are not open right now. But it does make you more creative. What about fathers? I know you mentioned, because they're mothers, a lot of times it is mothers. Do you find that men are getting involved? I mean, because there's some single dads out there.
There is. And a lot of the dads actually are stay-at-home dads, and the moms work. Or you get dads who work from home, and they're able to control their schedules. So they come to all these events. They come to our co-op. They come to field trips with us. And so that's really nice to see, especially for new dads, to talk with another dad, who's been doing it a while. And because, some dads might be a little skeptical, but once they start to see that children can, go to college and own their own businesses and be very successful through homeschooling, and they see the dads interact and engage in this journey, I think it really puts everyone at ease, and it kind of brings it full circle.
Okay, so that person that they barely made it through school themselves, so they just I'm just sick of school. It's like that's why school exists for my kids to go to. I mean, would you have any advice for them? What can they do now? Because it's one thing to talk about it as an option, but it's a whole nother thing right now that we're dealing with a very real time that people are going to have to make some decisions very quickly because August is coming up and that's when school starts. So do you have any suggestions for, what that parent that's just confused about what can you do now because they need to physically go out and work. They can't work from home. So they need to leave. Does your area group offer, does anyone offer to bring in other kids where they help monitor them while they're homeschooling, or what?
So we do have, I guess we're trying to expand it. That's kind of where the homeschool center idea has like really kicked into high gear right now, because we have all these working parents that even if you're working from home during this pandemic, you still need that time and your kids need to be occupied. So it's kind of just, I always tell people, even though you might start this homeschool journey, you still have to find your people within that group. And so once you find, if you might have family members, or friends, I kind of bring up the old school bartering method, that, maybe have, you or your husband might be, offer babysitting, or maybe your husband's good with woodworking or something, that someone goes, well, I need a bookshelf, maybe. You can kind of barter with each other. And it's so much easier, not during COVID, because you have these classes that you could leave your children at for a couple hours while they do their schooling, and you can go run some errands or get on a meeting, or make some phone calls. So it's been very challenging even for homeschool families, because dads now are home or working from home, that usually weren't in the mix, and now they're like all up in our schedule and messing it all up. And so it's been difficult for us too, but it's just a matter of getting creative, setting structure, not really necessarily a rigid schedule, but more of a rhythm. Even if it's you having to wake up earlier to get your work done, and then you can focus a couple hours with your child doing homeschool, and then get back on the computer and finish your work, or staying up later. It's just kind of finding that and fine-tuning that rhythm. It does take a while and it all depends on how many kids you have, what are their ages, and what kind of support system you might have in place already. But that's definitely where our group comes into, is, we try to have that, we try to create opportunities for families to have that support.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good word, because I remember when just going through it, I had to find that rhythm that worked for my son. And so I realized that, doing 4 core subjects a day was not the best. So to do like 2 core subjects that we focused hours on, so we can get that continuity. And then, and so we just found what worked for him, so that he could learn at his optimal, at his optimal level. And then, that it did better for me to read to him for some of the things, even though he was older. He could follow along, but me reading and the fluctuation with my voice to help emphasize certain things made a difference. So you do, many parents have the opportunity to, make this as fun as they can, and to help the students get through it. Because I know a lot of times our children can feel our energy. And if we're stressed and frustrated about things, then we can put that on them. And I'm so glad that all my kids graduated from high school, because, and even college, because I would be so irritated if my kids were not able to walk across. I'd probably be more irritated than my kids would be. But
Yeah.
so it's a time that people are going to have to shift. So let's talk about your goal and your dream for the center that you would like to have.
So it is needed now more than ever. It has been kind of, a thought, brainstorming through the last couple years, but this last year just really, and the last several months have just pushed it into high gear. So I'm currently looking, for either a building in Tracy or nearby. We've even gone as far as, thinking of purchasing a new home with, land, so I can just have a building built in the back for it. But the idea is to have a school that kids can go to, 1 to 5 days a week, and they could sign up for different classes. They can stay and have clubs, and just interact with their peers. It can be as simple as a book club or a Minecraft club, or chess club our kids have really gotten into, as well as classes, woodworking, sewing, your basic creative writing, debate and speech. life skills class, all the type of enrichment classes that maybe you wouldn't necessarily get at a public school. And it's really getting back to, teaching the kids, we would love to see welding, automobile, all these different unique classes that they can take that will really get them ready to either in their career field or just expose them to a good variety of classes and get them well-rounded in different enrichment, as well as your basic classes. But having a nature club and gardening and cooking and all these cool things that kids really just thrive in, and it's kind of like a come and go type thing. It's not that you have to be there every day. It's not like you have to be there from 8 to 3. They can just kind of sign up for different things and come when it suits them.
Okay, so right now you're an annual membership of only $20, right?
Yeah, so the first year is always free for people because we want to make sure this is a good fit for you. There's a variety of other homeschool groups out there on Facebook, but ours I think is a little unique because we're very active. We're scouring the internet for different curriculum, different links, different workshops that the parents can do. We put on different workshops, as well as all the different field trips. We usually go on at least one field trip a week, sometimes more, and we do all these special activities. We have a graduation ceremony. We do a lot more than just an online support group, and we really wanted to make it more of a community. So we thought if we put a little bit of a fee involved, it would kind of get people more encouraged to participate and to really be engaged and involved in the group. So all of that gets you $20.
The age group is from K through 12.
Yes. So I know a lot of people like looking ahead and researching homeschooling, even though their child might be 3 years old. In that instance, we always say, we answer any questions you have, but unfortunately, you do have to be in at least 5 years old, your child, to join the group. But if you have multiple children, then obviously at different ages, obviously you can, join. And it goes all the way up to high school. We have, we have a teen group that is obviously a little less active in your day-to-day classes and play date groups, but they have their own thing and bond in their teen area. And then we have a lot of kindergarten to first graders, and then you got like another big bunch of, I'd say, third to fifth graders, and so that's kind of neat to see the different generations grow up together, and you end up finding your clique of people, within the group, because your kids obviously end up being besties with other people, and so you're like, okay, I guess we're hanging out more with you guys.
For someone who's watching this and they say, well, maybe I have a building or maybe I have $1 million I can donate. How would someone get in touch with you to do that? Do you have a donation fund going on, or is it just
we did, it's kind of old. We haven't really started. I just now, like this last couple of weeks, kind of getting, okay, we need to tackle down kind of a GoFundMe page. So that will be in its work. The GoFundMe page we have right now is just for our garden group, and where we might actually be holding our co-op classes this year. It might be an outdoor program, because we were having our classes in a church, and obviously they're bound by different restrictions right now. So we might be taking our classes outdoors, which is great because kids love to be outdoors, and there's so much learning to be involved in nature and gardening. There's math and science and art and all this fun stuff. So yeah, definitely they could contact us via email, Tracy Area Homeschool Academy at yahoo.com. Or our website also has my contact information. They could always give me a ring. My telephone's listed there. And our website is Tracy Area Homeschool Academy.com.
Is there anything else that you want to share before we go?
No, I would just encourage people, don't feel like you can't teach, that you can't do this journey. It's any investment in your child is worth it. And you are very capable of giving your child a great foundation, and homeschooling can be very successful for your child and for you. And so I would just encourage people, don't get discouraged if you don't have a teaching credential or anything. It's a very viable option for your children, especially during this time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yolanda, for joining me today and for sharing that with the people of Tracy and all around the country who's looking at this. And I hopefully people are inspired and encouraged, because people need encouragement today. How they're going to go forward, how their students are going to go forward, how their students are looking at this too. Hey, maybe I want to be part of a homeschool thing. I have, these public school obligations, but maybe I can be a part of another network that could help me be successful right now. And they may even choose to stick with it even after the classes are back open again.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And I wish you all the best with your endeavors. And hopefully you'll get that building. Hopefully you'll get that and have a big...
We are working on it.
That you can have. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye now. Thank you again to Yolanda Magana of Tracy Area Homeschool Academy for joining us today and sharing how your voice is truly making a difference through homeschooling and helping to encourage those even during this COVID situation. As upcoming school year, people will have to make adjustments. If you've enjoyed this programming today, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. If you would like more information of how to get in touch with Yolanda Magana, see the information on the screen below. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young. And until next time, remember, your voice matters. If you have something positive to share and you would like your voice to be highlighted on Your Voice Matters with Nancy Young, please contact me at YVMwithNancy@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed this programming, please hit the subscribe button right now. Thank you.